Hello everyone and welcome back to the Placement Partner Recruitment Academy. My name is Shirley Anderson from Shirley Anderson Sales Consulting and Training, and I really aim to encourage sales individuals to smash their goals by bringing them practical sales knowledge with collaborative and fun methodologies. I'm going to be partnering with Placement Partner to assist all of you amazing recruiters to snap up all those lovely opportunities that lie in wait for you. Yes, recruitment is a sales-driven industry, and if you are still not down with calling yourself a salesperson, I thought I would give you a list of why being in sales is super awesome. Number one, working in sales builds great character. Passionate salespeople are steadfast and have a resilience like no other. I'm sure that you would agree. This constant theme of revenue and profit quotas can be stressful, but affords us ample opportunities to learn how to effectively and efficiently excel in any given conditions. And we know that is a skill that is needed on its own. And if you're a doer, you will love this one. Salespeople get things done. If you feel like you've always got more things to do in a given day than hours to do so, well, then you're probably doing a great job. Few salespeople have wide open calendars. There is the old saying that if you want something done, give it to a busy person. And I guess you can say we get things done because we're highly motivated. We live each day with purpose and drive. That's a pretty good way to spend your life. And it makes us pretty cool people to be around as well. It's better than wafting through the day, doing the same thing on a different day. No ways. We know what we want, and each day we set out to achieve it. It's pretty remarkable, actually. Put together those 4 traits, and it would be a pretty good guess that salespeople will be on the top of the list of invitees to the next social get-together. Confident salespeople have opinions and express them. They are trained to listen and present. It's a unique combination. So embrace it. But before I get carried away with telling you that you are the glitter bomb of glory, let's get on with today's session. So just a quick look at what we covered in previous weeks so we can make the link between the previous content and today's learning. We learned about who we should be, the challenger salesperson. We also looked at where we need to be and touched base on how we manage all of our activities. And then we also looked at the types of communication platforms to start those challenger sales conversations as we work towards building that awareness. And then finally, we looked at how we need to go about having assertive conversations that help our client to think a little bit differently, building that constructive tension for our client to want more from us. Because people work harder to avoid pain, therefore we create that knowledge gap. And they work less to gain that pleasure. The pleasure would be your solution, but there's no good spending time there yet if they don't see the need to listen to it. So we discussed that the awareness stage in our buyer's journey is a particularly good place to use these constructive tension creating insights because it gives us the ability to get yet credible point of view. The insights we give are well researched and based on fact and statistics. So they really appeal to that logical brain and provide that element of safety. Safety is often found in the logic, especially if we are about to embark on a journey of change, which most people don't like. That safety and that element of logic is going to be very well received. We provided you with a tool to develop those insights, and that is really as far as we got with that. I really hope that you've used this framework to workshop with your team and your recruiting colleagues. Today, I wanted to introduce you to the next part of the process, the buyer's journey. So we've already looked at awareness. We've unpacked that in quite a lot of detail, but we'll build on that today as well. And then we're going to look at the rest of the journey. So consideration, decision, and buyer's remorse as a big picture. So you can already start to prepare a complete sales engagement. In most sales training, the focus will be on the sales process, which definitely has its place and not null and void. Definitely fits in with the buyer's journey. But if we just focus on the sales process in isolation, we are only thinking about what we need to do, which changes our language. And this language change can be unintentional, but we run the risk of being that aggressive salesperson. Since we don't align with our client, we create that tension between the client and the recruiter versus the tension on the state of quo thinking. Focusing on the buyer's journey means we focus on the needs of the buyer at all times and deliver what we need to when the time is right. The buyer's journey can be exactly aligned with the sales process. As mentioned, focusing on the sales process in isolations mean we could leave our client or candidate behind. We are already closing whilst they aren't even sure why they should consider any kind of alternative to their status quo thinking. Then we ask ourselves why we didn't fulfill that vacancy or get the client to agree for us to be their recruiting partner. If we plan according to who is important, our client or your candidate, with a clear objective in mind, our success is actually more in our control than we think. Before sending any communication, so blog post, social media post, email, face-to-face meeting, or call, you need to actually ask yourself, what is the objective I want to achieve? What action does my customer need to make after I've had this conversation with them? So then I can plan all my conversation on getting them through the journey and ensuring that the belief system that they're adopting is getting them closer to the possibility of them making that decision. In the awareness stage, I would be thinking, is there a reason to even listen to me? In my consideration stage, I would be thinking about how can I help them see the benefits of the solution? And if they are in the decision stage, I would look at what do they need to get started? And then, of course, if they're in buyer's remorse stage, I would look at what encouragement do they need to ensure that they feel satisfied that they actually have made the right decision. Once you know where your client is, you can meet them where they are at. If you are not sure, then there's no harm done to summarize or remind them of previous communications. For example, if you were going to write an ad about a service you are going to offer, you would obviously need to highlight a point of view to capture the attention, or an insight to capture their attention. We've spoken about this before. So when we put together the communications for the Recruitment Academy, we highlighted the top 5 predictions of the post-COVID-19 era of recruitment, and this gave you enough insights to consider joining the community. And then later on in the communication, we followed on to tell you the features and the benefits of the Recruitment Academy initiative. So we highlighted that they're 10-minute videos, benefit being bite-sized learning to fit into your day. The fact that it was free was a feature, benefit to fit in on a tight budget, the webinar being a feature, the ability to follow up on the learning and apply it with like-minded individuals. So had we highlighted these benefits first, we would have been ahead of ourselves and we would have lost you a little bit, wouldn't we have? An example in your world. If you were pitching a position to a great candidate, you may want them to consider a package that is 5,000 Rand less than they expected. So your challenge here is that once again, your client would still be in awareness stage. They most probably wouldn't want to hear an offer like this. So you will need to perhaps provide him with an insight that would open up the possibility for you to explain more before moving on. For example, you could say, John, 5,000 Rand less than our expected salary is something we wouldn't want you to think about. I know that most candidates wouldn't even consider this option and wait for the next opportunity. However, what is worth noting here is that Company X has won Best Employer to Work for the last 10 years. And Company X is also the top 5 most sought after companies to work for. That tells you that this is something worth considering. Do you want to know more? Do you see how this would be different to saying something like, so John, I know that 5,000 Rand less than our expected salary is something we wouldn't normally consider, but I think maybe you can just go for the interview and see how it goes. So in the first example, we're opening ourselves up for a longer but more quality and respected conversation that could result in the client sort of having more buy-in. Whereas the second opportunity is opening the possibility up of the candidate not even attending the interview or phoning at the last minute saying, okay, he's actually thought about it, it's probably not worth his time. Because the quality of the conversation wasn't good because we were kind of ahead of ourselves, getting them to that final interview instead of really addressing the buyer's need and answering their questions, helping them be aware of why they should really consider this opportunity. So when we are assessing where our client is at any given stage, how are we actually doing that so that we can tailor our conversations? How will we know where our client is? Well, it really is just as simple as watching them and then listening to them. So their behaviors are going to give you cues. What they say is going to give them away. In the awareness stage, your client may look stiff, a little bit closed off, quite blasé about what you're talking about. And they're going to be asking questions like, do I have a problem? Why must I solve it? No, I don't really have time. Don't want to really chat to you at the moment. Can we do it next week? Quite blasé about what you have to offer. But once you've got their attention, which you now definitely know how to do, in the consideration stage, they're going to be a lot more open. They'll be a little bit more motivated, attentive, and they're definitely going to be asking you a lot of questions. So who does that? What is that? Can you explain more? When would that take place? Which are the different options do you think are going to be the better? How would I go around solving it? So they're really going to be open to you consulting with them, and you're going to be able to add that lovely value. And then in the decision stage, they're definitely going to show you some urgency and even a sense of anxiety that they want to move forward, and they actually may be leaning forward. Hopefully they're leaning forward for that agreement page to sign on. But they're going to be asking when and how can I make it happen? And then in the buyer's remorse stage, they may become quite distant. They may fidget a little bit. If you're selling a product where money is exchanged, you can definitely see this almost immediately. And we've all felt that feeling of elation when we go and buy that lovely pair of new boots, or for the guys listening in, a great pair of shoes, and then you have to pay for it. And that feeling of paying for it takes you from that feeling of elation to like, oh my gosh, I'm giving away that hard-earned money. And if you really pay attention to yourself, you do start sort of getting those heart palpitations and feeling a little bit anxious about this final decision that you've made. But the same can happen when just generally making a final decision on anything. As humans, we just tend to second guess ourselves, and the finality of a decision will just do that to us. In the buyer's remorse stage, they're going to be asking themselves, did I make the right decision? And you might actually get a call avoiding you altogether. So that's really the time you need to encourage them the most. So once we have assessed where our client is in the buyer's journey, then we can think about what we need to do in the sales process in order to. As a reminder, the first thing we need to consider is our objective. What is the action we need our client to take after our conversation with them? What is the next stage of the journey that I need to encourage them to move into? So from awareness to consideration, or consideration to decision, or decision, well, we don't want them to have buyer's remorse, but we may need to follow up if they do develop that. I can now help them by using the right sales tactic at the right time. So under awareness, in your sales process, you want to provide a killer intro. So using their name, highlighting their pain, delivering those insights we've spoken so much about, highlighting the gap, setting a clear agenda, giving them that element of safety and certainty of what to expect in the conversation ahead. And of course, we need to deliver this with utmost enthusiasm and conviction, remembering that we, as salespeople, are the life of the party. And then staying in awareness, we need to get our customer into a deeper state of awareness. So moving on from the insights, really creating that interest, how do these insights actually have an impact on them? So that would be where we need to ask questions and listen. So asking questions, open questions, starting what, when, why, which, who, and how. And then listening and reflecting on what they are saying. So this is not a time for you to talk at all, only asking questions. And then at the most, reflecting and telling them what you heard so that they can hear it back. By this stage, we would have gotten their full attention and they'll be asking the question, but how do I fix this? And that is when you are going into presenting your service, matching their needs, providing them with features and benefits, asking feedback questions so that that you can be sure that you're ticking all the boxes for them. So a simple example of a feedback question would be, so how does that sound to you? If you're a real pro, you can ask some trial closing questions like, for example, do you like what you hear, or have I answered your questions, or is there anything else I haven't covered? And normally asking 3 trial closing questions in a row and getting a positive answer will be a sign that your client has moved into the decision stage. They're really asking, okay, cool, what's the next step? And then this is obviously where you're going to close. So you would ask something, so shall I tell the employer you are looking to start on the 1st of the month or closer to the end of the month? So A equals FB, that is action is the function of belief. If you're heading into this stage and you're closing, you really want to make sure that the belief system that the candidate or the client has is now matching the action you want them to take. And you really want to just give them 1 or 2 alternatives, and that's going to give them that feeling of autonomy, that they also have a part to play in this decision. And then, of course, you may need to overcome concerns, in which case you're going to need to align with the customer. You need to go to isolate the concern, making sure that there's only this one concern that you need to overcome. Otherwise, you're going to get a list of them and feel like you're going around in circles. You're going to ask questions around what concerns they have, and finally ask them, to consider a particular solution before closing again. But the ideal situation is that you don't get any concerns if you follow this process aligned with the buyer's journey and really picking up their cues. And then finally, it's they may enter into buyer's remorse. They don't always, but this is where you'll need to have processes in place, like setting follow-up reminders for your clients or check-ins with candidates on your placement partner digital diary. And then for future business, this is the time you wow them and give them that extra value. And of course, now living in such a digital age, you can ask for recommendations, reviews, referrals. If you have given them such a great experience, the law of reciprocity will mean they're not going to say no. This is the best time to ask for something back after you've given them such a great experience and created that amazing loyalty that we said that you'd get as a challenger salesperson. So take advantage of the whole process. So at this stage, you should be feeling pretty smart. We've done a whole lot. We did a pretty thorough overview of the buyer's journey. And what I've done is I've created a summary of that buyer's journey as a downloadable tool, which I really encourage you to keep next to you as you work and make contact with all your clients and candidates this week. Really make those communications work for you and keep that success in your control. The process really applies to most of your communications. So your calls, mails, social media posts, etc. Sometimes you're going to need to follow the whole process in the case of a meeting with a client, for example, or sometimes you'll just tackle one element of the journey in isolation. So in the case of a social media post. So don't forget to diarize those webinar details. They are in this mailer. The webinar is interactive and we're really expecting a rather large group. So to make it work, we're most likely going to be divided into different breakout rooms to discuss certain elements of the learning. And the value of this really lies in the collaboration and the discussion and the detail. So really be prepared to get involved and we can't wait to see you there. And as I said, I think that you're all a bunch of geniuses. So keep that glitter bomb of glory going, embrace your salespersonness, and just have fun with it and really enjoy it. And then, of course, we would like as many recruiter geniuses as possible. So remember to pay it forward. Share the Placement Partner Recruitment Academy link so your colleagues and partners and friends can take advantage of this opportunity as well. The catch-up videos for each segment are included in the mailers. And if you're having a good time, we will really appreciate it if you let us know via email. Even if you'd like to get involved in the Academy, we'd love to work with you. Otherwise, give us a thumbs up on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Other than that, guys, I hope that you have a fantastic week. See you soon.